Hi, and welcome back to the PI SQL online course. In this video, we're going to show how to install, configure, and test functionality of PI SQL Client and PI SQL Data Access Server Real-Time Query Processor, or PI SQL DOS RTQP. If you remember from a previous video, the RTQP data flow consists of a server-side component and a client-side component. The server-side component is installed as part of the AF Server installation kit, and the client-side component is a separate installation. Each of these kits can be obtained from the tech support download site, which I've already done. Let's begin by installing the RTQP Query Engine component from the AF Services install kit. This machine already has the AF server itself installed, so I'm going to modify the installation to include the RTQP Query Engine. Under Individual Features, we can see PI SQL Data Access Server RTQP Engine. The reason that the RTQP Query Engine installation is bundled with the AF server is because both the AF Application Service and the RTQP Query Engine both speak directly to the PyFD SQL database that's the backend for the AF server. Because of this, both services are expecting the same version of the PyFD schema, and therefore they must both be updated in tandem. We'll click through the remainder of the installation. Great, let's open up services and confirm that the RTQP Query Engine has been installed. Here we see PI SQL Data Access Server RTQP Engine and the service is running. Next, let's move on to the client-side component of the installation. I'm using the beta version, so this might look a little bit different for you if you're using the production release. For the client-side component of the installation, you can see we're going to install the OLEDB endpoints as well as PI SQL Commander Lite. Now that both portions of the installation are complete, let's open up PI SQL Commander. We notice right away that we have a new item in the Object Explorer called PI SQL Client. This section is going to contain all of your RTQP connections. Also notice that unlike the other three sections, PI SQL Client is not pre-populated with a list of known connections. Each connection is to an AF database in specific, and once connected to, that connection will persist in the list of known PI SQL Client connections. Let's begin by creating our first connection to database 1. Let's type in the name of our AF server and AF database. We'll select Test Connection and click OK. We'll go into more detail about the schema of the RTQP Query Engine in a future video, so for now, let's just run a few queries to confirm that everything is working properly. Let's begin by opening up PI System Explorer so that we can confirm what we see in the query output from RTQP is what we should be seeing. And let's connect to database 1. Now, let's expand the master schema, go into Element, Tables, and execute the element query. Right-click, Execute Predefined Query. This is showing us one element, and that is a test element template for the template name. Let's confirm this in PI System Explorer. Here we see the name is test element and the template is test element template. Great, now let's do a test of creating custom database objects. Let's right-click on Catalogs and create template-specific data model. Again, we'll go in more detail about this in a future video. For now, let's just create one to make sure that everything is stored correctly. We'll create a new catalog, as well as a new schema. We'll select test element template for the element template type. We'll create an element view. Let's bring in both attributes. And for now, we're just looking at the values, so we'll uncheck all the other boxes. Great. We see the custom catalog we just created, so now let's expand it to see our schema, as well as our view. Let's execute the view, and notice that it returns one element, as well as two attribute values. Test attribute 1 is 1, test attribute 2 is 2. Let's return to PI System Explorer and confirm that those are the correct values. Here we see test attribute 1 is 1, test attribute 2 is 2. Great, the query was successful. The next thing I'd like to show is the configuration database, so let's connect to that now. Let's expand out the elements, and we see RTQP Engine, custom objects, a GUID, our catalog name, our schema name, and the name of our view. Going into detail about how everything is stored in the configuration database is beyond the scope of this video, but what I wanted to point out is that all of the configuration is stored server-side. What this means is that one person can create something on their client machine, then another person can simply refresh their connection and they'll be able to see the new custom database object. The last thing I'd like to show is the persistence of the PI SQL Client connection list. So let's close everything out and reopen PI SQL Commander. Notice here that we have our Database 1 connection, which were created in our previous session. This concludes the video on how to install, configure, and test the functionality of PI SQL Client and PI SQL DOS RTQP.